Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines. How about a $9,800 plus XRP price glitch? We're going to talk about that. How about Goldman Sachs? We're going to get into it. Update with the SEC Ripple case. You're going to want it. How about a global currency reset? We're going to look at some information today. This isn't just podcasters and YouTubers. This is the IMF and the world leaders talking about this. Something is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Let's roll that beautiful intro and find out what it is.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me at the top of the screen at Dig Perspectives on Twitter or Digital Perspectives News on Facebook. And we do exclusive lives every Sunday morning. Make sure you're joining that. Looky here. $2 trillion plus, $2.022 trillion market cap for crypto. It's not our all-time high, 3 trillion plus is, but you know what? It's the first time we've been over 2 trillion in quite some time. We'll take it. It's March 25th, 2022. Good morning, everybody. We're up 3.4% on the crypto market cap. And we see here Bitcoin 44,700 plus. It may go to 45 today. Ethereum 3,100 plus now. And XRP is 84 cents, up 7.46 on the 7-day. Take a look at the range of price. We see 83 cents on the bottom, 85 cents solid on the top. We'll keep an eye on it today. Take a look at this first piece. You know, one does have to wonder if these glitches are actually stress tests. Take a look at this glitch. We see glitches on XRP all the time, and it has always been, you know, rumored, speculated on, and talked about that. Are we actually seeing a glitch, or are we actually seeing a stress test to the system, and we're not supposed to see what the actual real price is? Now, there's been a lot of speculation and talk about the understanding that there is a private ledger, which is absolute fact for banks and central banks and financial system, as well as the open public ledger, the XRP ledger itself. Remember, the XRP ledger isn't just a protocol to move value, which it is, but it's also understood as a decentralized exchange for the world. So a public good, if you will. We'll get more into that in just a second here. But this little clip is from Zanan here, who says only a matter of time when it's not a stress test anymore, as he believes. You are seeing a mere moment of the future. Check this out. And you can see here, it glitches from the 22 cent moment to $9,866. Holy moly. You know, I tell you, when I think of a number like that, I don't show it to like be a hypist. I show that and think to at least what I'm thinking in myself is it's a very reasonable number for us to reach at some point, I believe, not financial advice. But I believe that because I understand the relationships and partnerships and the market infrastructure that has been built for many, many years now by Ripple and the other companies and clients that are building on top of the XRP ledger as well. I mean, when I think of the fact that, you know, Ethereum is at $3,000 plus right now and the transaction fees are absolutely atrocious, I have a lot of promise in my future when it comes to investing in XRP. When I think about Bitcoin and the fact that it takes forever to settle a transaction, and again, the cost of that transaction is very expensive and it is not viable for payments, and yet it has a low supply, so it has a very high price, I think to myself, $9,000 plus is extremely reasonable in my mind. And I'll tell you what else I'm excited about too, and it's right here. It's Glint Gold, baby. Glint or gold is security. Glint is the key. You're damn right. Let me tell you, you know, I've been really excited about this because for a long time I've been looking for something in a way to not only hold physical gold, which I have a very little bit of and I'm accumulating more all the time, but a way to really, you know, hedge the inflation that we're all experiencing. It's really starting to take off in the UK and it's well away here in the United States. They call 7 to 8.5%. I think it's more like 12 to 14%, and they don't want to tell us. We also saw estimations from the IMF that it could be food costs and inflation hit another 20% in the next year, we'll see what goes on with that. But I got a link underneath the video for this. Glint Gold, Glint Pay is bad to the bone. I am loving this. And yes, you can take physical delivery of that gold if you choose. Look right here. I love jokes, but humility is in the order on this day, Warren Davidson. Be a politician, not a clown comedian. Understand the severity to the harmed investors and demand crypto level playing field. A call for a public audit of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance ought to do it. Or would that damage special interest? This is in light of Warren Davidson making light, I believe, of a tweet he put out yesterday, which was really a Ripple scam tweet for which he, I guess, assumed was actually from Ripple, and then basically made an accusation that Ripple was centralized, controlling 5 billion XRP. We all know the story that is inaccurate. But then today, after probably getting a lot of backlash from that, instead of showing humility, he decides to crack a joke. You're killing me, Smalls. I still love you, though. Well, some of you. Well, you know what? You're a public official, Warren Davidson. Let's stop with the jokes and realize that there are really hundreds of thousands of XRP holders that have been harmed, but 65,000 that are represented in the class action lawsuit. You know, it is really in bad taste of you to really show arrogance and comedy in a moment like this when so many have been harmed. I wonder how many in your district have been harmed that find this to not be as funny as I don't. Take a look right here. And you know what? I hold out hope that he will make a post or some kind of public comment that tells us, hey, I made a mistake, and just own it and let's move forward. And again, show us your true intent that you want to see a level playing field for all of us, and step forward and ask for an investigation. Take a look at this right here. You know, it's really on when you see the largest banks in the world getting into digital, which we've been tracking for quite a few years now. But this is a video from Digital Asset Investors showing us the reflection between the XRP site and a Goldman Sachs site.
Goldman Sachs, Ripple. Goldman Sachs, Ripple.
You tell me. I mean, I think that's pretty clear right there. Shout out to DAI and JV for that one. That's a goodie. Now let's get to the update that we got right now with Ripple and the latest here. A lot of back and forth, so I'm really trying to make sure we cover this in detail to get everybody as up to date with the little teeny back and forth that we see happening here, because at any time we should be getting a ruling on the Estabrook notes, and we should also be getting a ruling at any time on the 63 emails drafts from William Hemmond's speech. So here what we see is Ripple says that a continuance would reward the SEC for its gamemanship and further prejudice defendants. The SEC's decision to wait until after the very last deposition scheduled in the case to file Dr. Albert Metz's new reply report necessitates sanctions against the SEC. First of all, thank you to Jim for putting this stuff out. I mean, we're so grateful for him and all the legal analysts that help us stay abreast to all the situation going on with the case. We would be lost without him and so many others. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is Dr. Albert Metz is a professional expert for testifying and specialize in testifying for people like Department of Justice and the SEC. You know, I have suggested that we should see a FOIA request between the two and see if we can get some information there as well. We'll keep you attuned to what goes on. This is one legal analyst, Bill, right here, who says that he's not so sure how this goes with the motion to oppose Dr. Albert Metz's late report and expert testimony here. He goes on to cite that Ripple lawyers conceded on page 3 that the new report of Dr. Metz is important. They said that, and its subject matter is important and was one of the 3 matters Judge Torres specifically referred to in allowing the fair notice defense, noting that Ripple states that XRP price bears no relation to Ripple's activities. He goes on to talk about it, but at the end of this basically says, hopefully the court will see the delay as one too many and less excusable as discovery has closed and it interferes with the summary judgment phase of the matter. and it is quite an insolent delay by the SEC. He read the statement by Ripple lawyers in the reply. The SEC has already asked the court for numerous extensions in this case, but defendants have vigorously opposed and impededly stating, which you have granted almost every time, but you should not grant this time. He says, I'm hopeful Ripple wins this motion, but ready to be disappointed. I understand his point of view here because, the judge has been very lenient, it appears, in allowing things. And I'm no lawyer. I'm 12 years short of a law degree, but I'll say this much. It would appear that the judge is operating in a manner that doesn't want to see this case have an opportunity to be appealed. So that may work out good for everyone in the end. Now let's change gears here and talk about this, a global currency reset. I want to take you through some information here that really, I believe, points to an inevitable moment that we are headed towards. I really do believe this, and I've believed it for quite a few years. So I'm not trying to say it's happening next Tuesday, but I am saying it's inevitable. And it is imminent. It will happen. I believe that it has to happen because it's happened previously in history. We're talking about a global reset because of now it's way more than $200 trillion in debt with inevitable economic collapse and stock market crash. What we're saying is basically gold currency resets, or basically global currency reset, refers to a process where the US dollar will eventually lose its place as the global currency. We know inflation is out of control right now, as I just told you in the opener of this video, which is why I'm hedging with gold with Glint. Instead, gold or some other instrument will be used as a new standard. In 1944, the Allied countries came together to establish a new global monetary system. And that's why I've reminded you, and I've covered this very quickly, it is, in fact, Kristalina Georgieva from the IMF saying exactly that.
I paid a visit to Bretton Woods in New Hampshire, where 44 men signed our Articles of Agreement in 1944. Our founders faced two massive tasks: to deal with the immediate devastation caused by the war and to lay the foundation for a more peaceful, more prosperous post-war world. At the conclusion of the conference, John Maynard Keynes captured the significance of international cooperation as hope for the world. If we can continue, the brotherhood of men will have become more than a phrase, he said. As we look forward to welcoming Andorra as our 119th member, the work of the IMF is testament to the values of cooperation and solidarity on which a sisterhood and brotherhood of humanity is built. Today, we face a new Bretton Woods moment.
There you have it. That is the managing director of the IMF calling for a new Bretton Woods moment, which is exactly where the US dollar became the global reserve currency. They're calling for a new reserve currency. Now, I'm not suggesting that XRP be a one world currency, but I'm absolutely suggesting that it should be able to fill the role as a one world bridge currency, right? So this, I believe it can do because it doesn't challenge the government fiat dollars around the world. Now, I've been saying this for quite some time. Check it out. This is Swell 2019. I asked the former IMF director the exact same thing.
Question about globalization. If you could talk about the idea of the old concept of the bank or coin and a neutral asset being in place of a global reserve status of the dollar, and possibly that being XRP.
What you're asking for is whether there's a possibility of a global currency, and to some extent that's what Libra was trying to do. And as I understand,
truthfully, what I was actually asking, and I should have framed it better, was I'm actually asking of a global bridge currency, not a global world currency.
Standard that's different from what XRP is trying to do, and the reason is as follows. as soon as you go to maintaining the value, right, some kind of stable coin, a whole set of regulatory concerns get triggered. I have to make sure that there is corresponding financial or real assets backing this notional value that they seek to maintain.
So real assets backing this asset that to maintain this value. Real assets. Remember that he said that. Because it doesn't stop there. This is Barry Eichengreen, who was also, right before this webinar with the IMF and Geeta Gopinath and everybody else, he was also on Blockstars with David Schwartz, Ripple's podcast. And this is what he had to say.
And second part of the question would be, what do we have to do to get out of this position of dollar dominance? Because it has the undesirable effect of weakening monetary policy, and it will run up sooner or later against the 21st century Triffin dilemma problem.
And the 21st century Triffin dilemma problem is when a national currency serves as the global reserve currency, and whatever adjustment you make to national or international policy to accommodate the world or the country of that dollar, it has an adverse effect on the other side of it. So this is where we are, and it is even further exacerbated by the amount of money printing, 10 trillion plus now, and the global debt on top of it. So now let's take a look at this, because this is like where we start to ask ourselves, okay, so what are we talking about here, Brad? How do we get from the moment we're in to this ultra moment of a new global currency reset, Brad? How do we get there? I don't know. But today we're going to entertain one way that it could happen. And the first order of business is to look at this. There's evidence that Russians may be trying to get around. The Russians are obviously going to try to get around the sanctions on their gold. And they are trying to take steps to make sure they plug the leaks. But there are evidence that the Russians may be trying to get around that. And you know what? This is quite interesting because, gold has always been the backbone of any currency reset. Period. Full stop. That's where we start. And if we're talking about entertaining not a podcaster or YouTuber like myself, but Barry Eichengreen, the economist, talking in the IMF webinar conference about the Triffin dilemma problem with the dollar dominance, understanding that we have had recently new financial system between Russia and China created, understand that there's a new conversation with Saudi Arabia and China talking about using the digital yuan over the US petrodollar. This is a very real conversation, ladies and gentlemen. And when I say to you, how do we get there? I believe one of the ways that we can find our way there is to go through a revaluation of gold. There's no strange notion that Jim Rickards has pointed to this as a possibility of how you rebalance the debt and rebalance the world in a currency reset is to revalue gold at an extremely high price. He's talked about $5,000, $10,000, maybe a little more. But we're going to look at evidence here from this guy, George Gammon, who is absolutely incredible. And we're going to take a look at this piece of this information. You should watch this whole video, by the way. Huge fan of George. And about how gold could hit $100,000. And it's at that point that I believe, whether it's at $10,000 or $100,000, whatever the price, let's just say a high price, you could then choose to introduce a new protocol to move all the value of the world, which is the XRP ledger and a decentralized exchange. And you could also really have that moment of a global currency reset. Now, couldn't you? Now, let me take you to the spot in this video and get you started. Okay, so very quickly, I'm going to set this up. So George is going to explain to you, because Russia is in the conflict and the sanctions are put on Russia, that we know that they've been hoarding gold. They have an enormous amount of gold reserves. And he's going to explain to you an arbitrage moment that Russia could do. Now, Russia just made an argument or a point that they were only going to accept rubles, right? Well, then we heard the EU respond back to that, and other world leaders have said, no, we're not. We're not doing that. And then we just reported to you that Boris from the UK is saying that Russians, in fact, are trying to use gold to get around the system. Well, watch this arbitrage moment that's explained to you where Russia would really sell the oil, which is a natural resource for them, for a very low price of, let's say, a couple bucks a barrel. And watch how he explains that these wholesaler arbitrage players around the world in the oil market, in the US or in Mexico or in the Middle East or in Asia, would take advantage of a moment like this and really help drive the price of gold to an extremely high price by arbitraging oil, because that's Russia's natural resource. Check it out.
Focus on speculator Sanchez and speculator Saeed, because if you understand what Sanchez is doing, Sam and Singh will probably do something very similar. And if we understand what Saeed is doing, we can really get our heads around how the oil producers themselves may take advantage of this incredible arbitrage opportunity. So to start, Sanchez would take his dollars, go into the gold market, he would buy gold. He would take the gold, he would give it to Russia. Russia would give him the 1,000 barrels of oil. He would take the 1,000 barrels of oil.
And the 1,000 barrels of oil would be for a really discounted price, like a couple bucks a barrel is the example here on the side. And after he's given the gold to Russia, then he's going to take the oil and go to the free market and sell it for the full actual fair market value of the oil to get his money back. Check it out.
Sell it into the oil market and collect far more dollars than he used to buy the gold in the first place. This is what drives demand sky high until we get to a point where gold could hit $100,000. It's that equilibrium point. Just in case you're not following the math, how it would work is we've got 1,000 barrels of oil right now, about $100 a barrel. That's $100,000. So if gold, let's say, was $80,000 an ounce, then you could still buy the 1,000 barrels of oil for $80,000 or $80 a barrel. That's still way under market price. So the arbitrage opportunity would still be there, which would create more demand for gold until the price of gold got to a point where buying it to sell to Russia for oil wouldn't yield a profit. But it's not.
So what he's pointing out here is how there could be an arbitrage moment with wholesalers in different regions of the world that says, hey, if Russia's accepting gold, I'm going to buy their oil at a discounted price where it's a few dollars or $10 under a fair market spot. And I'm going to take that deal all day long and give them the gold, beefing up their gold reserves, right? And then taking the oil, sell it back on the free market and get the difference and make profit on it. But then creating a demand for gold, because this would be happening around the world, helping to be a catalyst to drive the price of gold to a high price. And once you do that, then you could start to ask yourself, well, let's look at this. Then you could have a system that is backed by gold or gold bonds. And I would say gold would obviously be better than the paper, but where you could have repriced gold that could really handle the debt at that point if you do a global currency reset and revalue the dollars of the world based on gold's new valuation that's just been arbitraged and driven to an extremely high price. Then you could commoditize the XRP ledger with gold and many other assets, as you see here. And then that could take us to a place where we could really be off on not only a global currency reset, but a brand new financial system. That's where we are on this day, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you, I don't know what's coming. I can't say what's coming, but I can tell you this. I can see this as absolutely as a way to get there. And let us not forget, when it comes to the XRP ledger, which is a decentralized exchange for the world for everyone to use, even the private ledger that's been developed for central banks around the world, we know this about the XRP ledger from David Schwartz.
Less than a penny and fully confirm in less than 10 seconds. XRP Ledger's hyper-efficiency and liquidity enables developers globally to support numerous use cases from DeFi, payments, consumer applications. And you don't need anybody's permission to interact with the XRP ledger, right? It's a public good.
It's a public good. And that is even more reason to see it as something that would be used as a completely new financial system, as far as I'm concerned. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below. This is not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. Make sure you leave a comment below. I want to see what you say on this one, and check out all the links underneath the video. They're great products and specials I use each and every day, and they're trusted, vetted links. Be very careful what you click on out here. I'll catch you on the next one.